Good morning, Ken. So Sue asked me to, she said she forgot something. We're doing a survey about a dam, is that correct? You said we forgot the dam survey? So today is the last day for those who want to participate in our survey. This is not the same as the 1 to 5 survey that you took a couple months ago, but this is more of a essay question type survey just for about our community. Gloria has them. You can get them on the way back out there, and we would love to have you vote again this week on our center if you haven't already filled one of those out, and she'd be happy to receive them. There's pencils and all like that back there. And they're anonymous if you wish them to be, yes. So, and unfortunately, I don't know all of your handwriting yet, so they will be anonymous. So good morning. Our talk title today, which was created, the talk title was done a year ago, so I want you to know there was not any agenda about today or this past week, but it's called The Highest Good for All. The Highest Good for All. And the vision, those of you who have been with us for a while know that we're working as a whole movement, all the Centers for Spiritual Living are working on the idea of creating a world that works for all. And so the vision that comes with this is we see our communities as empowered with the realization of unity and wholeness, from which flows the ultimate healing power of forgiveness and love. And that's our vision for who we are. So breathe that in with me. Isn't that a beautiful vision? Yes. And so we've had an interesting week, right? You know, Tuesday. What can I say about Tuesday? Cynthia took her brand new 2-day-old car and backing out of the garage, hit the mirror, and and it was a terrible Tuesday. And then last night, the Ducks and the Huskies both lost. And I'm in deep grief. Did anything else happen this week? So Wednesday morning, I walked into the office and had volunteers and employees kind of with tears streaming down their cheeks and all sorts of reactions going on. So it has been an interesting week, of course, because of the election. So I just wanted to talk about that briefly, because rather than sweeping it under the carpet, it'd be good to get it out. And what I want to talk about is not so much politics, but values, our values. And there's the appearance out there, whatever is out there, of course, is always a reflection of what's in here, right? Within us. And it's within us individually if it's in our own lives, and it's within us collectively if it's in the collective life. And it reflects that. And so it's not about a person. It's not about Donald. It's not about Hillary. It's about what's in the consciousness of our country, and then what's in the consciousness of each of us, because who makes up this country? We do, right? And so what's in our consciousness? And so there's been a lot of concern about certain values that we've held dear as a country for 240 years being challenged. And some of those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I've heard about that one before. I think it was kind of early on in the start of the country. And the idea of liberty and justice for all. And this beautiful poem that's at the base of the Statue of Liberty: give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shores, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And so these are values that we as a country have held sacred for a long time, right? And so there's the appearance of the possibility, and I'm going to put it that way, that these may be challenged or rejected. Anybody notice that, or you kind of noticed that going on? So, and again, this is not about politics. I'm sure that, I know that some of you out there are celebrating. You're happy with the election results, and that's great. Okay, this is not about right or wrong, but it is about being conscious. So some people feel that there's been a setback in what we consider our values and what we consider some of the progressive movement in this country. And what I view this as is a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call. There are things that have been kind of stirring below the surface that are finally up on the surface. And by the way, they were up on the surface no matter who won this election, right? Because we had a huge portion of the country that was subscribing to certain values that some of us, other people don't subscribe to. I'm not going to polarize between in this congregation. But I like those values of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and justice for all. In the Bhagavad Gita, the character of Arjuna, one of the two main characters in there, who's the charioteer, right at the beginning of the book starts off with he's stuck between a rock and a hard place because he's got to go to battle to defend some of his family and teachers and his way of life against other people who are also his family and his teachers and his other way of and a way of life. And he recognizes that people he loves are going to die. That there's no good solution here. There's no right or wrong. It's all muddy and clouded. You ever kind of feel that way where we're at right now? It's all kind of muddy and clouded. And so he finally just says, I'm not going to go to battle. He just sets down his bow. He's got this legendary mighty bow. I'm not even going to go to battle. I'm not going to do this. Well, his charioteer is this blue-skinned guy. If you have a blue-skinned charioteer, would that kind of give you a clue that something weird is going on? Okay. This blue-skinned guy named Krishna. Some of you may have heard of him. And he first thinks of him just as his charioteer, but as the story develops, it turns out that this is actually God, he's the Krishna, God in form. And Krishna says to him, you have to do this. This is why you are called to be here. This is why you took form in this time, is you are a warrior and you are called to be the warrior here. And so this is a wake-up call. What are we here to be? We have been called to be something. We have chosen to take form on this planet at this time and to be here. Okay? And it's the wake-up call. And out of that process, when Arjuna starts to really question and interact with Krishna, out of this process comes this greater awakening to who God is, the true nature of Krishna, to the true nature of God, to the point where he finally gets to see the entire cosmic vision. Okay? So this is a call for us to engage with Spirit more fully than ever before. And what's available to us is the cosmic vision. If we will wrestle with it, if we will interact with it. I'm reminded of Jacob wrestling with the angel out of the Bible until he gets the blessing. And sometimes we have to wrestle with stuff, right? We've all had things in our lives we have to wrestle with until we get the blessing from them. So we have setbacks, we have things like that. It's not because of who won, it's because it's opening up the shadow side of America that most of us wanted to say, I really didn't believe that was still in existence. And yet it is. And you know what? I'm grateful that it's up. I'm grateful that it's up because we can actually see it and now start to address it and deal with it. We're having experiences across the country, even right here in Shasta County, of kids being told, go back to the country where you came from or your parents came from, right? And whenever I hear that, I want to go, it's like, so unless you're Native American, all of us should go back to the country where our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents came from if we're going to do that process. Because all of us here are either immigrants or children of immigrants, right? And so, we've all immigrated here. Can we be open to that? Can we be open to the homeless, the tempest-tossed, that the Statue of Liberty, our consciousness lifts up the lamp? Can we be that lamp? Can we be that light? Can we hold that in consciousness? So we're stuck this week, we're challenged this week, I should say, not stuck. We're challenged this week with that wonderful process that I call the human spiritual dance, okay? Where as spirit, on one level, we know that everything is okay. In God, it's all well. And as human beings, we have these feelings and these experiences, these human experiences, right? Okay? We get this like whenever somebody dies in our life. On one level, we know that the soul of that person, that essence, that who they are, is just fine, continuing on ever and ever more. And at the same time, as a human being, we miss being able to talk to that person, hug that person, play a game with that person, whatever it is we used to do with them. So we get that human and that divine dance. And we get reminded that we are spiritual beings, having spiritual experiences here in human form. And notice that I didn't say we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're spiritual beings having spiritual experiences in human form. Okay? And so it's okay to have the feelings we have. It's okay to grieve. If you're grieving, it's okay to grieve. If you're celebrating, it's okay to celebrate. Okay? It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Grief is a sense of suffering over a loss, and it's perfectly okay to feel that. What we don't want to step into is giving into fear. It's okay to notice that I'm afraid, but to give into and, hi fear, come and sit down at my table and make yourself welcome and let me entertain you, okay? That's not a good guest to entertain. We talked last week about how we can make up stories with our imagination. And have you noticed that ever since the election happened, there's a lot of stories being made up about what's going to happen? Yes. Yeah, a lot of stories being made up, okay? And we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We can have suspicions, but we don't know what's going to happen. The place where we create, and the only place where we create, the only place where we make up stories that are powerful stories is in the now. Okay? What story do we want to create going forward? This has happened. Now, what's next? What comes next? Years ago, I remember on January 1st, about 6 years ago, I think it was, I woke up one morning and my now ex-wife and I were living in Roseburg, and I was feeling kind of held back about my ministry. And I remember I woke up on January 1st, and I literally heard come right through me, I am ready for my ministry. I am ready to step into, powerfully move into my ministry. And a friend of mine, of ours, had described us as like I was this racehorse, kind of sitting at the gate ready to go with ministry. And my wife was in a place of kind of pasturing right now. She just wanted to kind of lay back. And neither one of those is good or bad. We were in very different places, right? And so I'm wanting to go into my ministry, and 30 days later, my wife said to me, I don't want to be married to you anymore. Okay? Now, at the time, I viewed that as a tremendous setback. It hurt. I had this whole vision of what we were going to do. We were going to do a whole co-ministry together and all this stuff and the relationship and everything. And I had this, so it was tremendously, it had been teetering for a long time. In fact, it had been kind of, most people would say it was already over the edge, but I hadn't clued in on that yet. And it finally was that bam wake-up call that says, yeah, this is what's already happened. You might as well accept it. Today, I look back on that as one of the best things that's ever happened in my life. Because I got on with my ministry, I got out of a marriage that really was no longer functioning, I got into a new marriage that's really wonderful. Hi, Cynthia. She says it'd be even more wonderful if you weren't telling stories about my backing the car up, but when you're a minister's wife, everything is grist for the mill, so it all shows up in sermons. So we want to create the story that we want to create. We want to get clear on what's the story we want to create now. What do I truly want for this situation to look like? And what do I truly want out of this situation that gives more life? So this is the time for us not to run away. I've got friends who are, I'm going to move to Canada, or whatever. No, this is the time to stand here and stand in our power and say, what do I really value? Who am I really? And what principles do I really stand for? This is the time for us to take these spiritual principles that we say we believe in and really engage with them, really get deep with them. I remember this after September 11th of 2001, after the attacks, which was a huge shattering of the illusion that we were a country that was safe, right? That we could never be attacked from the outside and all like that. And all of a sudden we had that whole illusion shattered. And I remember a whole lot of people in the church where I was at, the Center for Spiritual Living up in Seattle, finally came up and said, I need to really get going. I really need to get into my spiritual practice. I've been sort of just coasting along. As a friend of mine said, we could have elected Hillary and just remained asleep and kind of coasting for 4 more years. Okay? But we didn't. And to me, that's a good thing, because we can't be asleep on our values. Ernest Holmes takes the phrase from Paul's letter to the Ephesians, and it says, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. And Ernest says, to be strong in the Lord is to be sure of ourselves, because we are sure of the principle of life which manifests itself through us. That principle of life is constantly manifesting. It's not personal. It does not care about the person. It's constantly looking to manifest through us. And the principle of life is the principle of love, right? We teach that all is law and all is love. And the principle that is wanting to manifest through us is love. And so that will find a way. I think of, when you put concrete over things, it's like certain plants will come right up through the concrete, right? And we see trees that are growing on rocks hanging off over the ocean, that's like, how does that thing grow, That's the principle of life energy. That's the principle of life. It wants this. And all we need to be is the crack in the concrete that opens up to this. So somebody says, you're cracked? Say, yes. I am. And I let Spirit through me. I let Spirit through me. So I invite us to take as long as we need to grieve or to celebrate. Take as long as you need. And then commit to a deeper practice. Commit to getting deeper involved in this game, in this process of expressing spiritual principle in life. Where can I be the love? Where can I be the compassion? Where can I be the connectedness? If I'm afraid that all that is going to be lost out there, then I need to start being that here now. Where can I start being aware of the environment? Where can I start being a contribution to the health of the planet? Okay. Where can I start doing this? So that we become the change we want to see. And I always remember that God is greater than whatever the stuff is. God is greater. God is greater than all the stuff. Ernest Holmes says that 1 plus God is a majority. So here's this nature that wants to express its love, its good, its joy, its life energy. And if you and I are 1 plus that, if we are in alignment with that, we start to create a majority for that to happen. We start to create the opening where that can be and where that can take place. Trained thought is more powerful than untrained thought. And we as religious scientists have trained our thought in order to, we understand how to visualize, we understand how to affirm, we understand how to do spiritual mind treatment, we understand how to take our thought and use it to manifest an outcome and a result we want. Okay? And so we're being called on to do this more powerfully and to do this on a global scale, not just, how's my life doing? I've got, I get my parking spaces okay and my finances are okay and my relationship's okay. It's more like, how can I create a world that is even more powerful and not just okay, but fabulous? Works for all. And how can I be the consciousness that does that? How can I stand and do that? We have to be careful of what we train our thoughts toward, because in case you haven't noticed, there's a lot of people trying to train our thoughts towards places we don't want to go, right? Fear thoughts, condemnation thoughts, judgment thoughts. We don't want to go there. One of the things that I watched during the election from both sides is the judgments that were being passed out about other people. All Mexicans are this, all Muslims are this, these people are deplorables. All this name-calling and labeling of stuff. None of that's true. We're all children of God, expressions of the divine. Whether we remember it or forget it, whether you act the way that I want you to or not, or I act the way that you want me to or not, we're still expressions of the divine, right? Okay. And so we have to remember that. We can't lump each other into categories and labels. We're being called to clearly see, can I see the God in you? Can I see the God in you? Each and every person. Can I stay awake when I want to go to sleep? Can I stand more powerfully in this truth than I ever have before? And am I willing to? So we establish our trained thought into the values that we want to create. We establish it in the directions we want to go. What do I truly want in this situation that gives more life and harms no one? It's a question that Ernest asks. What do I truly want in this situation that gives more life and harms no one? So we have to trust divine intelligence. We have to trust that it's working through us. I had a friend of mine who was another minister who was on Wednesday said, I'm teaching foundations class, and I absolutely know that people are going to talk about the election and how did this happen, and I prayed for it to be differently, and my prayer didn't get answered. And so there was a little discussion that took place in the minister's listserv about that. And one of the things that I invited her to say is, well, first of all treatment is answered. The universe only says one thing. It says yes, always. And I hate that. I hate that. Because sometimes I have to look and say, what did I just ask it to say yes to? Right? When I get a mess out here in my life, it's like, what did I just ask it to say yes to? It just said yes. Dang it. Didn't it understand that what I really wanted was... Okay, so it's always saying yes. And this, what we have right now, is answered prayer. How many of us have been praying for change in the world? Right? Here it is. Okay, here it is. And what is important to remember is, this is just one dot in the story. Okay? I love the story of the farmer who has a horse that escapes, and people say, oh, that's terrible. And he says, we'll see. And then the horse comes back, bringing 5 more horses back. They say, oh, how wonderful. And he says, we'll see. A couple days later, his son is breaking in the horses. One of the horses throws him, breaks the son's leg. Oh, how terrible. We'll see. A couple days later, the army comes through conscripting all the healthy young men of the village for a suicidal war. They don't take the young man because he's got a broken leg, and they say, how fortunate. We'll see. And the story goes on and on and on and on. And if we recognize that we're just at one point in the story. I was blessed. I had a minister friend of mine who was in Rome. He was just finishing up a vacation in Italy. And he's the day after the election, and he posted on Facebook, and he said he was walking through all these, everything from ruins to, things that are pretty modern in Rome. And he was thinking about how many narcissistic, despotic leaders Rome has had in its history, right, over several thousand years. And they've survived them all. Okay? A friend of mine on the way out was saying, he was talking to a friend of his who was 96 years old, and he says, I've seen good presidents, I've seen bad presidents, and we've survived them all. Okay? And so to start to understand, we're in a story, we're in just one chapter of it. I have a friend who said that she was going through a particularly dark time in her life, and she was walking along the coast and the beach and sort of meditating on this, contemplating this. And what she heard was, this is a particularly dark chapter of your book. It's a particularly dark chapter, but it's not the end of the story. And these days, she's far happier than she ever was. Can we recognize that this is not the final conclusion? This is a chapter. And where the rest of the story goes is up to us, because we get to co-create the story. We're conscious, right? And by that I don't mean there's some they out there is not, but I mean we are, all of us together, humanity is conscious. Some a little more than others maybe, but we all are. We can co-create the story. We can say, what is it that I really, really, really want? And so we get to co-create that continuation of the story. So we walk by faith and not by sight. One of my other favorite phrases. We walk by faith, not by sight. Sight is what looks at the out here. It looks at the effect and believes in that. Okay? Faith looks within. And where's first cause? Where's cause always? It's within. So if I turn within to the spiritual truth of me, the highest, most powerful spiritual truth that I know. I love Sue, who began the treatment with there's only one. There's only one life. There's only one. There's times that I've had rough periods in my life where I've just sat there and said, there's only one life, there's only one life, there's only one life. And all this stuff is chattering in my mind, chattering in my head, whatever. And it's like, still, there's only one life. And it grounds me. It brings me back to a center. So we want to use faith to look at the cause within, to stay centered within. I know that the light is pushing the darkness up and out. The light is pushing the darkness up and out. Say that with me. I know that the light is pushing the darkness up and out. Okay? Remember that this week. Remember that for the rest of your lives, because it's always going on. Our light is what's pushing the darkness up. See, if you walk into a dark room, the light doesn't get into a conflict with the dark, does it? You don't watch any little bloody pieces or bruised pieces of darkness kind of crawling their way out the door after you turn on the light in the room, right? Okay? Darkness is just simply the absence of light. It's just the absence of it. And so if we can let our light shine, if we can so let it glow, so let it be brilliant. The darkness dissipates. It has no choice. There's no place else to go because it's just missing it's just missing light. It's just missing light. Can I love even those people that I really don't want to love? Even those people who really tick me off? Can I love the deplorables? Take a breath. Can I love those damn liberals? Take a breath. You know, it's been fun this week to watch people are running around blaming now. Who caused this, you know? Well, it's the Republicans that caused this. It's the liberals that caused this. It's the independent voters that caused this. It's the non-voters that caused this. Blame doesn't do a thing. Blame doesn't do a thing. So let us let go of the blame and start practicing love. We don't have to combat the darkness. We have to be the light. So this week, what I want to invite you to do is 3 things. Number 1 is to be gentle and compassionate with yourself and with others. Be gentle and compassionate with yourself and others. Whether you're grieving or whether you're celebrating, be gentle and compassionate in that process. Grieve as you need to, if you need to take that time. You know, I walked into the office on Wednesday morning and there were volunteers with tears streaming down their faces and staff who was, you know, traumatized and like that. That's one of the reasons I'm talking about this. It's because I figured that if I walked in and, you know, 6 or 7 people right in the office were all kind of, you know, having reactions to it, to the election, maybe you should talk about this, right? So that's why I'm doing it. I know Reverend Sue and I have had a few conversations about that this week. Stay away from those who are engaged in the darkness. You know, I've got a couple of friends, and myself included, it's like I've turned off the news for a little bit. You know, I don't want to listen to the gloating, I don't want to listen to the blaming, I don't want to listen to all this stuff. It's just, you know, let's take a break. And the people that are in the darkness, they're not bad, they're just not as awake as they could be at the moment. They're caught up in something else. So that's the first one, is to be gentle and compassionate with yourself and others. Second one is to spend time contemplating the love of the divine. What we put our attention on is what increases. Spend some time this week contemplating the infinite love of Spirit, the infinite nature of Spirit. It doesn't matter who the president is, it's where we direct our attention. It's not so much who we elected, it's who we elect to be. Who do I elect to be this week? And the third practice is to be the qualities that you want to see in the world. To be those qualities. You know, sometimes it takes somebody to say, you know, I'm afraid of losing these qualities, versus to say, you know what, I value that quality. I actually do value that quality. I need to focus on that quality and I need to become that more. So practice kindness and compassion. Practice love, practice gentleness with each other. So are you willing to join me in that practice this week? Yes. Okay. Being gentle, contemplate the love of the divine, be the qualities you want in the world. Thank you, Luke. King David, that's not me, that's a guy who, a while back. King David had a few setbacks in his life, right? And what he'd usually do is turn those into psalms, beautiful psalms. I want to read one of the ones that he wrote. I slightly rephrased it a little bit, but it's Psalm 71. And he says, "In you, Spirit, I put my trust. Let me never be confused." See, if I'm putting my trust in God, the world can't confuse me. If I really get what spiritual principle, what spiritual truth is, and I stay on that, I don't get confused. I don't get confused. So in you, Spirit, I put my trust. Let me never be confused. Be to me a sheltering rock, whereunto I may be continually comforted. For you are my rock and my fortress. Deliver me, O Spirit, out of the hand of the wicked, out of the hand of the unrighteous and cruel man. For you are my hope, O Spirit. You are my trust since birth. Spirit has been our trust since birth. And we've met cruel people. We've met nasty people, as well as we've met loving people. It doesn't matter. Do we put our faith in our hand in God and walk with Spirit? So I invite you to do that this week. Let's move into prayer. So again, I know there is only one life, one infinite presence. That presence is love. That presence is life. That presence is harmony, and that presence is power. That presence is a light. It is the light. And because that presence is all that there is, because there is nothing outside of that, I know that all of life, all of it, this entire planet, this galaxy, the universe, each of us, all of it, is immersed in and one of this infinite presence. There is no separation. And so I know that you and I and each person on this planet are one of the life, the love, the light, the power, the wisdom of Spirit. Each of us is this right now. Whether we remember it, whether we forget it, whether we believe it or don't believe it, we are still one of this life energy that is constantly expressing itself, constantly becoming more and more of its own true nature. And so I speak my word that this week we are that opening where Spirit can express. We are consciously that place where love is expressed, that place where compassion and respect is expressed, that place where we stand in truth and know the highest and greatest outcome, and that is what is expressed. That our own power, we are God in form. Let's quit messing around. We are God in form. And we stand and declare our truth. Let there be love. Let there be light. Let there be caring and compassion. Let there be truth. Let there be harmony. That this is our truth. We stand and we declare this now. And I'm grateful for the good that comes out of this. I'm grateful for each of us who stands more powerfully, more deeply in our truth, in our spiritual truth, and expresses that and allows it to move through us. Because all we are doing is becoming openings to Spirit. And so I'm grateful for each of us as we open up to Spirit ever more fully. We are blessed and we are a blessing. And so I release the how this shows up into a law that knows how to manifest it into form, knows how to manifest it into expression right here, right now. It does so. And we simply affirm that by saying, and so it is. Super.